Hi, it's time for another math easy solution. Today we're going to discuss a pretty interesting topic, and that's going to be on blockchain. Look at an overview of it, and look at Bitcoin, cryptography, cryptocurrency, and Satoshi Nakamoto, the person or persons behind Bitcoin, the anonymous person, or persons, and also much more. It's going to be a pretty epic video. It's going to be pretty long. So like always, note if you don't have time to watch this whole video, you could skip to the end for summary and conclusions, or just play this video at a faster speed. Top secret life hack. Like always, you can your brain gets used to faster speed. So try 2 times speed on YouTube. It's like downloading knowledge into your brain. It's absolutely amazing. And also you can also download and read the notes. The link will be in the description below. And also read these notes on Steemit. So follow me at MES like that on Steemit, which is also on the blockchain. It's actually my favorite type of blockchain technology. And also you could watch a video in part, doesn't need to be all at once. So let's look at this further. So yeah, let's look at a blockchain overview. I just changed the title as the earlier one. And now look at topics to cover right here. So I have an important note first, and then look at the blockchain, double spending, proof of work, distributed ledger, peer-to-peer or P2P systems, cryptography, and also look at briefly at the Polyalphabetic Cipher, which is an antique form of cryptography. And also look at the symmetric versus public key or asymmetric cryptography, the Devi-Hellman key exchange, the cryptographic hash function, the Byzantine Generals Problem, Bitcoin wallets, Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin blockchain whitepaper, look at data and bits or binary digits, and then look at trusted or cryptographic time stamping. Then also talk briefly about creating your own cryptocurrency, and then go over a summary of all of this. And then later, this is my full disclosure of my views on blockchain, which is, I believe, is the trickle-down technology, hashtag NWO. So yeah, if you follow through the whole thing, or if you've seen my earlier videos, you pretty much understand my views on this. But anyways, nonetheless, it's still a technology that we could use for good or evil. So let's look at some important notes first one. Important note. So in this video, I go over a mainstream overview of blockchain technology, including some of the terms and definitions associated with it, as well as looking at the requirements needed to create your own cryptocurrency. That being said, I take a lot of this quote mainstream information from Wikipedia. For those that haven't seen my earlier videos, I have an extremely low opinion of Wikipedia and view it as nothing more than an Orwellian information control system that only provides quote official mainstream narratives for anything and everything. Thus, if you have any information that contradicts any of the mainstream definitions or concepts covered in this video, please let me know, as it will provide for some future video material. So yeah, this video is going to be like pretty much a mainstream overview of blockchain. But if you know something that's not being told on Wikipedia or other mainstream sources, let me know. So let's just jump right in. Let's look at blockchain, what Wikipedia says. So a blockchain, originally block and then space chain, is a continuously growing list of records called blocks, which are linked and secured using cryptography. Each block typically contains a hash pointer as a link to a previous block, a timestamp, and transaction data. By design, blockchains are inherently resistant to modification of the data. A blockchain can serve as an open, distributed ledger that can record transactions between two parties efficiently and in a verifiable and permanent way. And this is all dealing with cryptography, how you can do that. For use as a distributed ledger, a blockchain is typically managed on a peer-to-peer network, collectively adhering to a protocol for validating new blocks. Once recorded, the data in any given block cannot be altered retroactively without alteration of all subsequent blocks. So you got to go through the whole blockchain to change any block that you just modified, which needs a collusion of the network majority. So you're going to be hearing that a lot. Basically, it's a majority consensus of computers or nodes or parties that always need to have a majority. Yeah, so if you have a majority that are honest, that's what it's called, honest computing, or computers, the protocol will be followed perfectly fine. And then any adversaries or people trying to attack the system need to overcome the overall majority CPU power. So more on this later in this video. So blockchains are secure by design and are an example of a distributed computing system with high Byzantine fault tolerance. Decentralized consensus has therefore been achieved with a blockchain. This makes blockchains potentially suitable for recording of events, medical records, and other records management activities such as identity management, transaction processing, documenting provenance, or food traceability. So yeah, it makes tracing and recording things much easier and more reliable without a middleman like a bank or a central authority. So the first distributed blockchain was conceptualized by an anonymous person or group known as Satoshi Nakamoto in 2008 and implemented the following year as a core component of the digital currency Bitcoin, where it serves as the public ledger for all transactions. The invention of the blockchain for Bitcoin made it the first digital currency to solve the double spending problem without the use of a trusted authority or central server. The Bitcoin design has been the inspiration for other applications. So yeah, here is an illustration of a blockchain formation. The main chain in black consists of the longest series of blocks from the genesis green, that's a genesis right here, to the current block. Orphan blocks purple exists outside the main chain. So if you wanted to change anything over here, change your stuff, just modify this part, you're gonna need to go back all the way here, create it, and then catch up to this, and then make sure that that is the longest chain. So you actually have to extend past this, which is not that easy to do. So let's just go further on. Yeah, so let's just look at the history briefly here. The first work on a cryptographically secure chain of blocks was described in 1991 by Stuart Haber and W. Scott Stornetta, or Stornetta. In 1992, Bayer, Haber, and Stornetta incorporated Merkle trees to the blockchain as an efficiency improvement to be able to collect several documents in one block. The first distributed blockchain was then conceptualized by an anonymous person or group known as Satoshi Nakamoto in 2008 and implemented the following year as a core component of the digital currency Bitcoin, where it serves as a public ledger for all transactions through the use of a peer-to-peer network and a distributed time-stamping server. A blockchain database is managed autonomously. The use of a blockchain for Bitcoin made it the first digital currency to solve the double spending problem, which is ensuring that you don't have duplicates of any block or currency or coin. Yeah, so it overcame the double spending problem without requiring a trusted administrator like a mint or a bank. The Bitcoin design has been the inspiration for other applications. The words block and chain were used separately in Satoshi Nakamoto's original paper in October 2008, and when the term moved into wider use, it was originally block space chain before becoming a single word blockchain by 2016. In August 2014, the Bitcoin blockchain file size reached 20 gigabytes, and then in January 2015, the size had grown to 30 gigabytes, and from January 2016 to January 2017, the Bitcoin blockchain grew from 50 gigabytes to 100 gigabytes in size. So that's getting pretty big. By 2014, blockchain 2.0 was a term referring to new applications of the distributed blockchain database. It's not just cryptocurrency. And so it has a lot of applications. So blockchain 2.0 technologies go beyond transactions and enable exchange of value without powerful intermediaries acting as arbiters of money and information. They are expected to enable excluded people to enter the global economy, enable the protection of privacy, and people to monetize their own information, and provide the capability to ensure creators are compensated for their intellectual property. Second generation blockchain technology makes it possible to store an individual's persistent digital ID and persona, and are providing an avenue to help solve the problem of social inequality by potentially changing the way wealth is distributed. MES note, if you have seen my other videos on 9/11 and whatnot, and note that I am always skeptical of any hidden motives, and in this case of storing a person's identity, it can serve as the ultimate tracking device as well, hashtag NWO. So yes, there's always two sides to the coin, or the Bitcoin. Yeah, because you could use it to provide or or monetize your information, but then that can also be a way to perfectly track everything about you. And here's just an illustration of number of daily confirmed Bitcoin transactions here, and this is from January 2009 to January 2017. Yeah, this is pretty much exponentially growing, so expect it to keep going. Here's how some of the data could look like. Blockchain data has all the, for example, heights here. You could store a bunch of people's heights and whatnot. All it is just information, just text, but verifiable text nonetheless. So notable non-cryptocurrency designs include Steemit, combines a blogging site, social networking website, and a cryptocurrency. Hashtag get on Steem. It's actually my favorite my favorite blockchain and cryptocurrency. And make sure to follow me at MES on there. Also, Ethereum is another one that's pretty big. It's a blockchain with a Turing complete scripting language that enables the processing of smart contracts on the blockchain. So yeah, imagine having a contract for your house or whatever without needing a lawyer or a mortgage broker or whatnot. You just use a blockchain. So also go further. National currencies. The following countries have adopted the technology of a currency issue. Dinar, Tunisia's national currency, was the first state currency using blockchain technology. ECFA is Senegal's blockchain-based national digital currency. So expect that to come to your local country soon. And yeah, let's look at non-profit organizations. Level 1 project from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation aims to use blockchain technology to help the 2 billion people worldwide who lack bank accounts. Building blocks project from the UN's World Program WFP aims to make WFP's growing cash-based transfer operations faster, cheaper, and more secure. Building blocks commenced field pilots in Pakistan in January 2016 that will continue throughout spring. So yeah, when the UN and Bill Gates Foundation are investing in so-called charities, you just expect that blockchain is going to go pretty big. So that's why I'm doing this video, so make sure to just get caught up on just an overview of it. Yeah, and to help you basically make your decisions a bit easier. So now let's look at that general ledger right here, because blockchain, like Bitcoin, can have a distributed ledger. So a general ledger, this is from Investopedia, is a general ledger is just a company's set of numbered accounts for its accounting records. The ledger provides a complete record of financial transactions over the life of the company. And then the double spending problem here is an error in a digital cash scheme in which the same single digital token is spent more than once. This is possible because a digital token consists of a digital file that can be duplicated or falsified. The prevention of double spending has taken two general forms, centralized and decentralized. And yeah, centralized one is pretty straightforward. But the decentralized one, by 2007, a number of distributed systems for double spending prevention had been proposed. The cryptocurrency Bitcoin implemented a solution in early 2009. It uses a scheme called proof of work to avoid the need for a trusted third party to timestamp transactions. These timestamps are recorded in its public ledger called the blockchain. This avoids anyone double spending the currency because it needs to basically prove that you have done the work by going all the way back to each block and then just going through a bunch of mathematical CPU computations and so on, so which is not easy to do, as I will explain. So the proof of work system, just in general, proof of work or POW system or protocol or function is an economic measure to deter denial of service attacks and other service abuses such as spam on a network by requiring some work from the service requester, usually meaning processing time by a computer. The concept may have been first presented by Cynthia DeWerk and Mani Naor in a 1993 journal article. The term proof of work or POW was first coined and formalized in a 1999 paper by Marcus Jacobson and Ari Jules. An early example of the proof of work system used to give value to a currency is the shell money of the Solomon Islands. A key feature of these schemes is their asymmetry. The work must be moderately hard but feasible on the requester side, but easy to check for the service provider. And this is where we'll get into cryptography later, which is part of the one-way mathematical function. Easy in one direction, hard in the other. This idea is also known as a CPU cost function, client puzzle, computational puzzle, or CPU pricing function. And then one popular system used in Bitcoin mining and Hashcash uses partial hash inversions to prove that work was done as a goodwill token to send an email. And then look at some variants of them. There are two classes of proof of work protocols. Challenge response protocols assume a direct interactive link between the requester, client, and provider. For example, here's the client requests a service, and then it chooses a challenge, and then it responds, and then it verifies and grants the service to it. So that, yeah, it gives that challenge there, the puzzle, to make sure you're not spam or whatnot. And then the solution verification protocols do not assume such a link. As a result, the problem must be self-imposed before a solution is sought by the requester, and the provider must check both the problem choice and the found solution. Yeah, so in this case, there's a receiver. The sender needs to do that computation right away, send it, and it just verifies if it's right. It's usually just a mathematical operation. That's hard to solve, or just time consuming, especially with even with a computer. So distributed ledger right here. Distributed ledger, also called shared ledger, is a consensus of replicated, shared, and synchronized digital, geographically spread across digital data. I mean geographically spread across multiple sites, countries, or institutions. There is no central administration or centralized data storage. A peer-to-peer network is required, as well as a consensus algorithms to ensure replication across nodes is undertaken. So you have a copy everywhere. One distributed ledger design is through implementation of a public or private blockchain system. But not all distributed ledgers have to necessarily employ a chain of blocks to successfully provide secure and valid achievement of distributed consensus. A blockchain is only one type of data structure considered to be a distributed ledger. Yeah, so it's one type. Not everything needs to be a blockchain to be a distributed ledger. In 2016, numerous banks trialed distributed ledgers for international payments applications. Going further, incumbent banks are investing heavily in distributed ledgers as a cost-saving measure and a way to reduce operational risks. The future use of distributed ledgers is expected to monetize the Internet of Things in a programmable environment. Everledger is used to track diamonds by recording numerous unique data points. So you have many ways of trying to basically spread information around instead of just one centralized authority. And now let's look at peer-to-peer. So peer-to-peer or P2P computing or networking is a distributed application architecture that partitions tasks or splits them apart, or separates or divides tasks or workloads between peers. Peers are equally privileged and equipotent, or equally strength or potential, whatnot. Participants in the application, they are set to form a peer-to-peer network of nodes. Peers have a portion of their resources, such as processing power, disk storage, or network bandwidth, directly available to other network participants without the need for central coordination by servers or stable hosts. Peers are both suppliers and consumers of resources, in contrast to the traditional client-server model in which the consumption and supply of resources is divided. So yeah, each of these nodes or computers can do, they can consume or supply other computers for whatnot for their computing needs. So while P2P systems had previously been used in many application domains, the architecture was popularized by the file sharing. I believe this was the music sharing system Napster, originally released in 1999. So here's an illustration of it: a peer-to-peer P2P network in which interconnected nodes, peers, share resources amongst each other without the use of a centralized administrative system. So this one could be doing some CPU. They could use this for copying some other data, and they're just all interconnected like that. So yeah, let's just go further. So here is in contrast, here's just a client-server model, network based on the client-server model, where individual clients request services and resources from centralized servers. So we have just one central one. If any computer wants stuff, it just goes and grabs it from this one, and so on like that. Whereas this one here, they can talk to other parts of the computer network, and just, if they need resources from this or CPU power, goes from here or from here, and then like that. So it is decentralized as opposed to this one right here, like that. I'm just move this. All right. Let's go further just to illustrate further. So overlay network diagram for an unstructured P2P network, illustrating the ad hoc nature of the connections between nodes. Ad hoc, just as needed. So you have some here, then you want some other ones connected. You can connect them inwards like that. So this is just unstructured like that. Then there's also structured ways of organizing these P2P networks. So overlay network diagram for a structured P2P network using a distributed hash table DHT to identify and locate nodes and resources. This one's split up in a structured tree-like manner like that. Let's go further. Here's an illustration of the Bittorrent Protocol. In this animation, the colored bars beneath all of the 7 nodes, I'll show you the GIF in a bit, in the upper region above represent the file being shared. Yeah, with each color representing an individual piece of the file. After the individual pieces transfer from the seed, the large system here at the bottom, the pieces are individually transferred from client to client. The original seeder only needs to send out 1 copy of the file for all of the copies to receive a file. So it has, here there is, I believe there's 6 files right here. So he will send some across there, this one across there like that, and then these ones are all going to be interconnected. So all you need to do is send 1 of each of these, and then these will all have it in these colors there. And I'll show you the GIF that it has over here. Let's just click it. Yeah, so here is the GIF right here. We'll start up like that. So there it is. It goes green over there, red over there, and then these start sending it. This one sends across like that. And yeah, they do all the work like that. And then soon all these computers will have that file. So it's a distributed network there, and all he did was send 1 of each. Yes, just send 1 of these to several of those, and then now they all have that. So let's just go back here. So here's just a quick illustration. I just screenshotted a couple of scenes of those. So it sends across here. This one sends some stuff over there, and you get the idea. Then they even communicate with each other. This one needs the orange one, so it gets the orange one there. This one needs a green, goes to green, and eventually they all have. Eventually they'll all have the file, like that. So yeah, that was just a quick overview of the distributed peer-to-peer networks, how they work. Now let's look at cryptography. So a lot of this decentralized, blockchain, distributed ledger, all these concepts are all made possible by cryptography. So cryptography or cryptology, from the Greek word cryptos or hidden, secret, and graphene or writing, so secret writing or study respectively, is the practice and study of techniques for secure communications in the presence of third parties called adversaries. More generally, cryptography is about constructing and analyzing protocols that prevent third parties or the public from reading private messages. Various aspects in information security, such as data confidentiality, data integrity, authentication, and non-repudiation, are central to modern cryptography. Modern cryptography exists at the intersection of the disciplines of mathematics, computer science, electrical engineering, and communication science. Applications of cryptography include electronic commerce, chip-based payment cards, digital currencies, computer passwords, and military communications. Cryptography prior to the modern age was effectively synonymous with encryption, the conversion of information from a readable state to apparent nonsense. The originator of an encrypted message shared the decoding technique needed to recover the original information only with intended recipients, thereby precluding unwanted persons from doing the same. The cryptography literature often uses the name Alice for the sender, Bob for the intended recipient, and Eve for the adversary or eavesdropper. Since the development of rotor cipher machines in World War I and the advent of computers in World War II, the methods used to carry out cryptology have become increasingly complex and its applications more widespread. Yeah, so here's an illustration here of the German Lorenz Cipher machine used in World War II to encrypt very high-level general staff messages. That's some pretty big stuff over there. And here's an example of a alphabet shift cipher, are believed to have been used by Julius Caesar over 2,000 years ago. This is an example with k equals 3. In other words, the letters in the alphabet are shifted 3 in one direction to encrypt and 3 in the other direction to decrypt. So if you have A, B, C, D like this, you just shift this over. Yeah, here they shifted this way, so that means, actually I think it's shifted the other way. So then this one here is A is X, B is Y, C is Z, like this, so it's shifted K equals to 3 there. So then the C becomes A. Yeah, so then the C goes over to A, D becomes B, and so on. So yeah, that's just an example of ancient cryptography, or at least from the mainstream view here. So symmetric key cryptography refers to encryption methods in which both the sender and the receiver share the same key, or less commonly in which their keys are different but related in an easily computable way. Yeah, so you can have different ones, but just yeah, still related by probably the same math function. For example, this one can be considered technically a symmetric key cryptography, because to decrypt this, you both need to know the password, which is just 3. Just shift it over there. So I believe that would be still fall in line with symmetric key cryptography. So yeah, this was the only kind of encryption publicly known until June 1976, and yeah, publicly for sure, I believe they've had this kind of tech much earlier. So anyways, here is an example. Here's Bob, or here's Alice right here. Actually, Bob is sending the message, "Hello Alice," wants to encrypt that, puts a secret key here, and then gets some random numbers, gibberish, and he sends it over to Alice, and then Alice has the shared secret key to unlock this, just as a password, and so on, just like a bank e-transfer. When you yeah, send email e-transfer, you send someone some money, to give them a password, and they put it in. So yeah, symmetric key cryptography, where a single key is used for encryption and decryption. Yeah, so now let's look at public key cryptography, and yeah, so symmetric key crypto systems use the same key for encryption and decryption of a message through a message or group of messages, yeah, or though a message or group of messages may have a different key than others. A significant disadvantage of symmetric ciphers is the key management necessary to use them securely. You're going to need a password for each one, or if you want to use the same one, it's going to have problems of its own. Each distinct pair of communicating parties must ideally share a different key, and perhaps each ciphertext exchange as well. The number of keys required increases as the square of the number of network members, which very quickly requires complex key management schemes to keep them all consistent and secret. The difficulty of securely establishing a secret key between two communicating parties when a secret channel does not already exist between them also presents a chicken and egg problem, which is a considerable practical obstacle for cryptography users in the real world. So yeah, it's almost like, well, if the channel's not secure, how do you know, how can you put a password in? Is that going to make it secure, even though the channel itself might not be secure? Yeah, I believe that's what they are talking about, the chicken and the egg one. So yeah, so you need to find a way to ensure that the channel itself is secure as well. Not just, just give a password across it, because that could just be stolen. So in a groundbreaking paper, or a groundbreaking 1976 paper, Whitfield Diffie and Martin Hellman proposed the notion of public key, also more generally called asymmetric key cryptography, in which two different but mathematically related keys are used, a public and a private key. A public key is so constructed that calculation of one key, the private key, is computationally infeasible from the other, the public key, even though they are necessarily related, again in that easy to compute one way, difficult in the other. So you can't just calculate the private key if you know that the public key, what it is, because that's public. Instead, both keys are generated secretly as an interrelated pair. The historian David Kahn described public key cryptography as the most revolutionary new concept in the field since polyalphabetic substitution emerged in the Renaissance. And let's look over here. So there's Whitfield Diffie and Martin Hellman, authors of the first published paper on public key cryptography. So in public key crypto systems, the public key may be freely distributed, while its paired private key must remain secret. In a public key encryption system, the public key is used for encryption, while the private or secret key is used for decryption. So you encrypt with the public key, and then only the private key can decrypt it. While Diffie and Hellman could not find such a system, they showed that the public key cryptography was indeed possible by presenting the Diffie-Hellman exchange protocol, a solution that is now widely used in secure communications to allow two parties to securely agree on a shared encryption key. It's actually quite genius, actually, when you look at this. So here is Bob like this, So here is the public key cryptography where different keys are used for encryption and decryption. So if Bob wants to send Alice a message, hello Alice, he would encrypt using Alice's public key. So Alice will, so he knows this one's public, so has access to that, and then he just can encrypt it. So this one's unbreakable. The only way you can decrypt is with Alice's private key. Absolutely amazing. So all she had to do is keep this one secret. So if you want to send, if Alice wants to send to Bob, she would take Bob's public key and just encrypt it. Only Bob can open it because he has the mathematically related private key to his public key. It's absolutely amazing. It's so simple, but it's quite amazing. So just to give you an example, this is a polyalphabetic cipher. Yeah, just to give an illustration of what they were doing before. So a polyalphabetic cipher is any cipher based on substitution using multiple substitution alphabets. The Wigner cipher is probably the best known example of a polyalphabetic cipher, though it is a simplified special case. The Enigma machine is more complex, but still fundamentally a polyalphabetic substitution cipher. So yeah, let's just look at an example of a Wigner cipher, just to illustrate it here. And the way this one works is if we have a shared keyword, so there's a shared keyword or password. So instead of doing just the basic k equals to 3 where we shifted it, when you scroll all the way back here, so this one here is k equals to 3. That's the shared number. So what we could do is use a multiple different alphabet shift. So we'll do a shared keyword. I'll call this one A, B, C just to make it simple for this example. And then the way we'll do is look at from this alphabet right here, I have from A all the way to Z. And then that's 26 letters, and just put them in numbered order. Put 0 as a starting one here, so 0 all the way to 25, because we're dealing with computer science. It's better. Just go with the 0. And then what we'll do is we have the shared keyword here, A, B, C. So what I'll do here is I'll put the 0. Put each number of the alphabetic order there. So the B is going to be 1. 0 A is 0. B is 1. The C is 2, like that. So then we have this over there. And then let's say the message we want to send is, so message, I'll just put math easy solutions. Let's put math, I don't know what I'm doing there, math easy solutions, like this. So let's say we want to send this message out. So then the encryption, what we'll do is we'll take this 0, 1, 2 and then place it everywhere across this. So then we'll shift each of the letters according to this order. So we'll have 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, like that. So yeah, I believe I have that all lined up correctly. Just line them up like that. And then the encrypted message right here, encrypted, yeah, that's spelling wrong. So encrypted message across here. So the encrypted message is going to be, well, that means we're going to shift each of these letters according to this number. So M will shift it by 0, so that's just going to be M. A will shift it by 1, so A will go to B. So we'll have M, and then this is going to be B. T will shift it twice, so T, U, V is 21 over there. That's just going to be V. And then H will shift it, just leave it there. And then the E will go to F. A will go to B, C. S will go to, just remain at 0. Y will go to Z. S will go to as TU. So we'll just have capital like that. The zeros, the O's just remains as an O. The L will shift 1, so L will go to M. And then the U will go to VW. And then the T will go, well, it just remains. The I will shift 1, so J. The 0 or the O will shift twice, so PQ. And then the N remains, S goes to T. So there is our encrypted message, and only this person can, who knows the secret shared keyword, can just shift this over now, and then they could just put a 0, 1, 2 again if they know that combo, and then just shift this in the other direction, 0, 1, 2, and goes on, and then shift it this way. This one here, I just did it to shift it this way. This one will shift it the other way, and then we'll get it back. So M remains, B goes to A, V goes to, let's look at it, V goes to 1, 2, so T. And then H goes to, well, let's just remain, so we'll have math. Yeah, so now let's look at the Diffie-Hellman key exchange. Just wanted to give that illustration of the antique version of it, and this one's actually quite ingenious. So Diffie-Hellman exchange protocol that they designed or invented, or whatever you want to call it, in their paper, is a method of securely exchanging cryptographic keys over a public channel, was one of the first public key protocols as originally conceptualized by Ralph Merkle and named after Whitfield, Diffie, and Martin Hellman. DH is one of the earliest practical examples of public key exchange implemented within the field of cryptography right here. So here's an illustration of this, and I'll show a video later. Just imagine they were paint. Would be pretty cool. So if you have common paint, Alice here, common paint shared in the clear. Everyone knows what it is. It's yellow, and they have secret color. This one, let's say that's orange or red, I guess that's a shade of red. This one is green, and then if Alice mixes these two together, we'll get another color here, and these are just public, everyone can see these. This one gets a bluish color, everyone can see, and then they exchange this. Assume mixture separation is expensive, so yeah, separating different colors is not that easy to do. And then when they combine the secret colors, they get a common secret because this mixture has yellow, this one's red, and then we'll get this blue. And this one's going to be yellow, green, and yellow, green, and this one orange. But the orange consists of these ones, so what we'll end up having is all the same colors, and I'll explain this all in the same. So this is actually quite ingenious illustration of the idea behind Diffie-Hellman key exchange. So if a third party listens to the exchange, it would be computationally difficult for them to determine the secret colors. In fact, when using large numbers rather than colors, this action is computationally expensive for modern computers to do in a reasonable, modern supercomputers to do in a reasonable amount of time. In cryptology publications, the eavesdropper is usually named Eve. In a cryptographic explanation, the simplest and original implementation of the protocol uses a multiplicative group of integers modulo p, where p is prime and g is a primitive root modulo. I'm not going to go to the mathematics too much of it, but I'll illustrate this here. Here's a good illustration of the Diffie-Hellman protocol right here, and I'll show a bit of this clip over here from Art of a Problem YouTube channel. So given an illustration here is, if you have these two dots or these two paints, blue, yellow, you mix them, this is hard to separate. So that you can easily mix something. Very difficult to get back to the other way. That's the one-way function. And let's just jump right in and see what we have here. Yeah, so here's the video. Let's just play it.
And that would require a network.
Money transfers were just one of a growing number of applications which required encryption to remain secure. And as the internet grew to encompass millions around the world, a new problem emerged. At the time, encryption required two parties to first share a secret random number known as a key. So how could two people who have never met agree on a secret shared key without letting Eve, who is always listening, also obtain a copy? In 1976, Whitfield Diffie and Martin Hellman devised an amazing trick to do this. First, let's explore how this trick is done using colors. How could Alice and Bob agree on a secret color without Eve finding it out? The trick is based on two facts. One, it's easy to mix two colors together to make a third color. And two, given a mixed color, it's hard to reverse it in order to find the exact original colors. This is the basis for a lock. Easy in one direction, hard in the reverse direction. This is known as a one-way function. Now, the solution works as follows. First, they agree publicly on a starting color, say yellow. Next, Alice and Bob both randomly select private colors and mix them into the public yellow in order to disguise their private colors. Now, Alice keeps her private color and sends her mixture to Bob, and Bob keeps his private color and sends his mixture to Alice. Now the heart of the trick. Alice and Bob add their private colors to the other person's mixture and arrived at a shared secret color. Notice how Eve is unable to determine this exact color since she needs one of their private colors to do so. And that is the trick. Now, to do this with numbers...
But yeah, so you can see, absolutely amazing, especially the illustration just using paint. So yeah, note the amazing illustration of mixing two different colors to get another color that is very difficult to decipher the original color. So now the parties can switch their mixtures, add their own color to them, and mix again to obtain the exact same mixture right here. Put this over there. Yeah, I just moved it over there. So yeah, absolutely amazing. And yeah, just to give a mathematical equation-based proof of this one, just look at this one here. If you have A for Alice and then you have B for Bob, just to illustrate this a bit better. So let's say you had a common color, I'll call this P1, this one is P1. So they both have P1. Then they'll add their shared secret A or secret color. So just add this one here, this one is B is the secret. Like that. So then this one, what we end up having is P1. I'll just call this, actually I'll just call this P2. So when you add them up, you get a P, this one's going to get called P3, then we just exchange. So when we do the exchange, when we do the exchange, we get a P3 for Alice gets a P3, and then Bob gets a P2, and then they just add their own colors to them. So plus A, this one's going to be plus B, or their own secret. So now what we get over here is, well, P3, we know what P3 is. P3 is equal to P1 plus B. This is going to be P1 plus B plus now we have an A. And then this one here, the P2 is equal to P1 plus A, and then plus this new one B. And these are absolutely equal to each other. So this is absolutely amazing. Let's put a equal sign like that. This is genius. Hashtag, yeah, let's put hashtag genius. So simple, yet so amazing. So yeah, that's absolute genius. So now if we want to do this with numbers, well, this kind of protocol would just require finding a difficult mathematical one-way function that is easy in one direction and hard in the other direction, comparable to the ease of mixing colors versus the difficulty in separating colors from a mixture. And here's an example that some of the cryptography functions use. It's a simple illustration of the multiplicative group of integers modulo. I'm not going to go over too much of the mathematics behind it, but basically I'll just show another clip of that same video, give you an example here. Yeah, give you an example before I get to the video. This function here, 3 to the power of 3 mod 17, what this means is this one is looking at the remainder here. So if you have 17, we'll pretend we have a clock like this. So 3 to the power of 3, this equals to, well, that's just going to be 3 to the power of, just 3 to the power of 2 times 3 to the power of 1. This is going to be 3 times 2, or you can just think of it as 3 times 3 times 3. So 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 equals to 27, like that. So if we have 17 goes into this, well, cleanly, I'll just do 27 minus 17. This is going to be, this is going to be equal to 10 right here. So if we were to divide this out, you could just write this as 27 equals to, 27 divided by 17. This is the same thing as writing, this 27, this is just going to be writing as 17 plus 10 over 17, which equals to 1 plus 10 over 17. So that means this is the remainder here. So what we'll do, this modulo function looks at the remainder, and this one's going to be equal to 10 like this. So that equals to 10, or they call it congruent. So 3 to the 3, I don't know, my computer's a bit slow. So 3 to the 3 mod 17 equals to 10, or they just use congruent. Put that, but I might go over this in later videos. But just to give you an illustration, let's just go watch this. Alright, so let's just play this here.
Now, to do this with numbers, we need a numerical procedure, which is easy in one direction and hard in the other. This brings us to modular arithmetic, also known as clock arithmetic. For example, to find 46 mod 12, We could take a rope of length 46 units and wrap it around a clock of 12 units, which is called the modulus, and where the rope ends is the solution. So we say 46 mod 12 is congruent to 10. Easy. Now, to make this work, we use a prime modulus, such as 17. Then we find a primitive root of 17, in this case 3, which has this important property that when raised to different exponents, the solution distributes uniformly around the clock. 3 is known as the generator. If we raise 3 to any exponent x, then the solution is equally likely to be any integer between 0 and 17. Now, the reverse procedure is hard. Say, given 12, find the exponent 3 needs to be raised to. This is called the discrete logarithm problem. And now we have our one-way function. Easy to perform, but hard to reverse. Given 12, we would have to resort to trial and error to find matching exponents. How hard is this? Well, with small numbers it's easy, but if we use a prime modulus which is hundreds of digits long, it becomes impractical to solve. Even if you had access to all computational power on Earth, it could take thousands of years to run through all possibilities. So the strength of a one-way function is based on the time needed to reverse it. Now, this is our solution. First, Alice and Bob agree publicly on a prime modulus and a generator. In this case, 17 and 3. Then, Alice selects a private random number, say 15, and calculates 3 to the power 15 mod 17, and sends this result publicly to Bob. Then Bob selects his private random number, say 13, and calculates 3 to the power 13 mod 17, and sends this result publicly to Alice. And now the heart of the trick. Alice takes Bob's public result and raises it to the power of her private number to obtain the shared secret, which in this case is 10. Bob takes Alice's public result and raises it to the power of his private number, resulting in the same shared secret. Notice they did the same calculation, though it may not look like it at first. Consider Alice. The 12 she received from Bob was calculated as 3 to the power 13 mod 17. So her calculation was the same as 3 to the power 13 to the power 15 mod.
Yeah, just a note right here. I don't like his notation here because I believe there's supposed to be a bracket around here because this is going to be 3 to the power of 13 times 15, not to the power
17. Now consider Bob. The 6 he received from Alice was calculated as 3 to the power 15 mod 17. So his calculation was the same as 3 to the power...
Yeah, so here they they put that in with the bracket there so that it's just 3 times 15. You can just move those around. So yeah, just a note there.
15 to the power 13. Notice they did the same calculation with the exponents in a different order. When you flip the exponent, the result doesn't change. So they both calculated 3 raised to the power of their private numbers. Without one of these private numbers, 15 or 13, Eve will not be able to find the solution. And this is how it's done. While Eve is stuck grinding away at the discrete logarithm problem, and with large enough numbers, we can say it's practically impossible for her to break the encryption in a reasonable amount of time. This solves the key exchange problem. It can be used in conjunction with a pseudo-random generator to encrypt messages between people who have never met.
So yeah, absolutely amazing. So yeah, that was just a property of the modulo function, which I'll go over, just explain it in a bit further. But basically, that modulo function is easy to calculate. This 12, we have 3 to the 29 mod 17. It's easy. Going backwards to find this question mark, that is very hard to solve what it was to get to 12. And then also now if you had really large prime numbers instead of 17, just something really big, even if you had access to all computational power on Earth, it could take thousands of years according to that video. So if you look at it here, just go illustrate it again. I just illustrated here. So Alice would send, well, the G is 3, the P is 17 is the primitive root. This one is the prime root, 17. Root is just any number that can only be divided by itself, or the number 1. Yeah, so initially Eve knows that it's going to be 3 mod 17. That's all she knows initially. And then the secret number for Alice is 15. Eve doesn't know that. Bob's is 13. So 3 to the 15 mod 17 is 6. And then the 6 gets sent over to Bob, but then Eve also picks it up. So Eve has 6, and Eve knows that it's 3 mod 17, and then Bob's secret number is 13, and it does 3 to 13, sends over the 12 all the way across here. So now Alice has 12 and 6. Everyone has 12 and 6, but Alice has 15 and 13, and this is where the property of the modulo function kicks in, which is not only it's a one-way function, hard in one way, easy in the other. It is, well, it has this property over here, very similar to that paint mixture. So this one's 12 to the 15 equals to 6 to the 13, and this procedure is possible because of the following property of the mod function, where if you had the primitive root, let's say is G, so G mod, let's say we had the prime root P like this. So let's say we had this one, and then G to the power of A, and then this part here, if we take this to the power of, if we take this to the power of B right here, and then did a mod of P again like that, so this number inside, this is equal to, or congruent, whatever one I pick, we might go over this later, but if you just write this out like this, this is equal to the same thing as G to the power of B, so you could flip the A and B. This is a property of the modulo function. I may go over this in a later video. A like this, mod P like this. And in this specific example here, it uses over here, this is 12 to the 15, so then that case right here is going to be 12 to the 15 mod 17. Well, this one equals to, well, we know that the 12, going back all the way here, 12 is equal to 3 to the 13 mod 17, like that. So scroll this over. Yeah, my computer is just it has a bunch of data in here. It's a bit slow right here. This is going to be 3 to the power of 13 is the 12 right here, mod 17. And this is all bracket. Now we have the 15 over there, like that. And then we have this mod 17 over there. So then this just equals to, well, the 3 to the 13, you can just flip these around. This is going to be 3 to the 15 mod 17 to the power of 13. So we just flip those around. This is mod 17. And this part right here, 3 to the 15 mod 17, that just equals to, well, we know that. Let's just scroll all the way up here. 3 to the 15 mod 17 is 6. Like that. So equals to 6. 3 to the 15 mod 17 is 6 to the 13 mod 17. In other words, we have 12 to the 15 mod 17 equals to 6. Whoops, what is happening here? 6 to the 13 mod 17. And then if you calculate this out, it actually equals to 10. Like that over there. Very similar here. This is going to be, yeah, the 12 to the 15 mod 17, 6 to the 13 mod 17, those both equal to 10. Again, that's part of the mod function property. And now the beauty of all this is that Eve can't find the hidden 10 just from the 6 and 12 results of previous modulo operations, so it doesn't know what the 13 and 15 are. So it can't solve for that 10 one very easily. So that's actually absolutely genius, and you can see the image over here. All it has is the 6 and 12, and that it knows that it's 3 mod 17. It doesn't know what power. And when scaled up to extremely large prime numbers, instead of just 17, something really big, which is it's easy just to plug in a big number, but it's hard to solve for what that power is. This becomes extremely difficult and time consuming even with modern supercomputers, and that video claims it's going to take thousands of years, all the computational power of the world, unless there's some sort of other hidden method not known about. But anyways, so note the inner workings and mathematics of the modulo concept is outside the scope of this video, but it serves as an illustration of how the same quote paint mixture protocol can be applied in a mathematical way. And again, I may cover this in later videos, so stay tuned for that. It's a very interesting math function over there. So now let's look at the hash function over here. And it's I believe it does some sort of similar method over there as the modulo one, just basically similar one-way functions. Actually, no, that's the cryptographic one. This one is, I'll just read this out. This is mapping data onto fixed size data. So a hash function is any function that can be used to map a data of arbitrary size to data of fixed size. The values returned by a hash function are called hash values, hash codes, digest, or simply hashes. One use is a data structure called a hash table, widely used in computer software for rapid data lookup. Hash functions accelerate table or database lookup by detecting duplicated records in a large file. An example is finding similar stretches in DNA sequences. They are also useful in cryptography. A cryptographic, yeah, that's the one. The hash function is similar to that modulo one, kind of like allows one to easily verify that some input data maps to a given hash value. But if the input is unknown, it is deliberately difficult to reconstruct or equivalent alternatives by knowing the stored hash values. It's a one-way function here. For example, you had these ones, names like here, John Smith, Lisa Smith, Sam Doe, etc. Throw these inside the hash function, and then you have these hashes where you have fixed size data. This one's 00, 01, 02, and there's a function there that can get back to these larger size data files there. So hash function that maps data to integers from 0 to 15. There is a collision, a collision between keys John Smith and Sandra D here, and this is an error that you need to deal with. Like, and then there's different ways of tolerating or dealing with this when you have the same, basically the same number there representing two different data files. So that's just an example. So let's look at that cryptographic hash function in more detail. A cryptographic hash function is a special case of hash function that has certain properties which make it suitable for use in cryptography. It is a mathematical algorithm that maps data of arbitrary size to a bit string of fixed size, a hash function, which is designed to also be a one-way function. That is a function which is infeasible to invert. So in other words, cryptographic hash function is a one-way hash function. The only way to recreate the input data from an ideal cryptographic hash hash function's output is to attempt a brute force search of possible inputs to see if they produce a hash, produce a match, or use a rainbow table of matched hashes. Bruce Schneider has called one-way hash functions the workhorses of modern cryptography, and yeah, it seems like it from what I've read so far as well. The input data is often called the message, and the output hash, the hash value or hash is often called the message digest or simply the digest. So you have the input fox, the red fox jumps over the blue dog, cryptographic hash function, then you have all these random data bits right here. Or just these are just fixed size, everything is in exactly these kind of numbers like that, and that's called a digest. Over there, these could be random size, put it over in here, and then there's a function to get over to this way to verify that it is, in fact, went through this hash function. So a cryptographic hash function, specifically SHA-1 at work, a small change in output in the word over drastically here. If you just change OEVR or over, like this, there's the over change right here. So the red fox jumps over, and this one's spelling differently, and then you get a bunch of different stuff like that. So yeah, it's very interesting stuff. So it drastically changes the output or digest. This is the so-called avalanche effect. Small change has big change later on. So now let's look at that Byzantine fault tolerance that the Bitcoin was able to overcome. So in fault tolerant computer systems, and in particular distributed computing systems, Byzantine fault tolerance, BFT, is a characteristic of a system that tolerates the class of failures known as the Byzantine Generals Problem, which is a generalized version of the two Generals Problem, for which there is an unsolvability proof. Anyways, just going further, there's the Byzantine General Problem. Byzantine refers to the Byzantine Generals Problem, an agreement problem described by Leslie Lamport, Robert Shostak, and Marshall Peace in their 1982 paper, The Byzantine Generals Problem, in which a group of generals, each commanding a portion of the Byzantine army, encircle a city. These generals wish to formulate a plan for attacking the city. In its simplest form, the generals must only decide whether to attack or retreat. Some generals may prefer to attack, while others prefer to retreat. The important thing is that every general agrees on a common decision. for a half-hearted attack by a few generals would become a rout and be worse than a coordinated attack or a coordinated retreat. The problem is complicated by the presence of treacherous generals who may not only cast a vote for a suboptimal strategy, they may do so selectively. For instance, if 9 generals are voting, 4 of whom support attacking, while 4 others are in favor of retreat, the 9th general may send a vote of retreat to those generals in favor of retreat, and a vote of attack to those a vote of attack to the rest. So that's a very interesting traitor there. Those who receive the retreat vote from the 9th general will retreat, while the rest will attack, which may not go well for the attackers. The problem is complicated further by the generals being physically separated and having to send their votes via messengers who may fail to deliver votes or may forge false votes. And this is pretty much the heart of distributed computing problems we need to solve. So Byzantine fault tolerance can be achieved if the loyal, non-faulty generals have a unanimous agreement on their strategy. Note that there can be a default vote value given to missing messages. For example, missing messages can be given the value null. Further, if the agreement is that the null votes are in the majority, a pre-assigned default strategy can be used, i.e. retreat. If there's a bunch of messages not going through, just call retreat. So the typical mapping of this story onto a computer system is that computers are the generals and their digital communication systems links are the messengers. Very, very fascinating. So in practice, one example of BFT or Byzantine fault tolerance in use is Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer digital currency system. The Bitcoin network works in parallel to generate a chain of Hashcash style proof of work. The proof of work chain is the key to overcome Byzantine failures and to reach a coherent global view of the system state, and that is where it has the longest blockchain. Basically by computers all working, or most of the CPU power working honestly, or just not being hacked. Some aircraft systems, such as the Boeing 777 Aircraft Information Management System via ARINC 659 Safe Bus Network. The Boeing 777 Flight Control System and the Boeing 787 Flight Control Systems use Byzantine fault tolerances. So yeah, when you're flying a plane, you don't want it to do anything half-heartedly. You need everything working in coherence. So anyways, this is from the paper, The Byzantine Generals Problem by Leslie Lamport, Robert Shotak, and Marshall Peace. Over here, just give you some illustrations of the problem there. So if you had a commander, you had 2 lieutenants over here, and this one says attack and attack, but then the lieutenant tells the other lieutenant, he said retreat. This is Lieutenant 2 is a traitor. And then if the commander tells this person to attack, this one retreat, and this person says retreat, the commander is a traitor. So yeah, all these different computers and nodes working together and to try to form a uniform consensus of final decision based on the majority. Here is another example over here. This one algorithm over here, Lieutenant 3 is a traitor here. So if this one tells everyone V, this one tells V, and this one gives an X, Lieutenant 3. This one, the commander's a traitor, says X, Y, Z to everyone instead of just one voice to everyone, so it's a traitor. Another one, the commander's a traitor, attack, yeah, so just similar stuff like that. So anyways, that's some stuff I need to work there. So note, I present these schematics to give an illustration about the Byzantine Generals Problem. For more information on some earlier solutions to the problem, please read through that paper over there. Yeah, now let's go over into the land of Bitcoins, read an overview of it. So Bitcoin is a worldwide cryptocurrency and digital payment system called the first decentralized digital currency, as the system works without a central repository or single administrator. It was invented by an unknown person or a group of people under the name Satoshi Nakamoto and released as open source software in 2009. The system is peer-to-peer and the transactions take place between users directly. So that's the amazing part. Without an intermediary, these transactions are verified by network nodes and recorded in a public distributed ledger called a blockchain. Bitcoins are created as reward for mining. They can be exchanged for other currencies, products, and services. As of 2015, in February, over 100,000 merchants and vendors accepted Bitcoin as payment. Bitcoin can also be held as an investment. According to research produced by Cambridge University in 2017, there are 2.9 to 5.8 million unique users using a cryptocurrency wallet, most of them using Bitcoin. Here's the logo over there, Bitcoin, prevailing Bitcoin logo. And yeah, side note, if you know any occult symbolism meaning behind this, let me know. But that very interesting stuff with the symbolism. So anyways, this is how it is. Millibitcoins, 1/1000th of it. And a Satoshi, this is a 100 millionth of it, and it's the lowest one in name of the anonymous founder, Satoshi Nakamoto. So you can see the 3 zeros, so 100 millionth of a Bitcoin. Symbol is over there with the B and the lines in front. And this is unspent outputs of transactions denominated in any multiple of Satoshis, and this was date of introduction January 3rd, 2009, 8 years ago. Worldwide use, decentralized, and interesting part here, the supply growth is 12.5 Bitcoins per block, approximately every 10 minutes until 2020, so that keeps getting more and more Bitcoins for each block that gets made, and then afterwards 6.25 Bitcoins per block for 4 years. It gets half, so 12.5 divided by 2, 6.25. For 4 years until the next halving. This halving continues until 2110 to 2140, about 100 years later, when 21 million Bitcoins will have been issued over there. Very interesting. And also this article contains special characters without proper rendering support. You may see question mark boxes or other symbols, and I see that over here for the Unicode of the Bitcoin, which is going to be, looks something like this over there. So anyway, so the word Bitcoin occurred in the white paper that defined Bitcoin. Defined Bitcoin, published on October 31st, 2008. It is a compound of the words bit and coin. The white paper frequently uses the shorter coin. The unit of account of the Bitcoin system is Bitcoin. As of 2014, tickers used to represent Bitcoin are BTC and XBT. Its Unicode character is over there. Again, my computer doesn't render it properly. Small amounts of Bitcoin used as alternative units are millibitcoin, MBTC, and Satoshi. So milli is 1/1000th of a Bitcoin, and then the Satoshi is 100 million. So yeah, named in homage to Bitcoin's creator, a Satoshi is the smallest amount within Bitcoin, representing 0.000001 or 100 millionth Bitcoin. 100 millionth of a Bitcoin. A millibitcoin equals to 0.0001 1/1000th of a Bitcoin. And yes, note again, the Bitcoin Unicode doesn't render properly on my computer, but an image of it is shown below over there. So now blockchain. The blockchain is a public ledger that records Bitcoin transactions. A novel solution accomplishes this without any trusted central authority. The maintenance of the blockchain is performed by a network of communicating nodes running Bitcoin software. There's a bunch of computers using Bitcoin software talking to each other, and so on. So number of Bitcoin transactions per month, logarithmic scale. This is a logarithmic scale. Remember, this is in the 10 million range here. This is absolutely ridiculous over here. So this is exponentially growing. Bit linear over there. This growth from here to here is, the rate is ridiculous, but still, this is still pretty massive. Remember, it's logarithmic one here. Unreal. So ownership in the blockchain, Bitcoins are registered to Bitcoin addresses. To be able to spend the Bitcoins, owner must know the corresponding private key and digitally sign the transaction. So again, yeah, Bitcoins just have an address, so then that pretty much means you have, assuming you have your private key to it. So the network verifies the signature using the public key over there, verifies that is owned by someone. Then you just need to unlock it to buy it and spend it and whatnot. If the private key is lost, the Bitcoin network will not recognize any other evidence of ownership. The coins are then unusable and effectively lost. For example, 2013, one user claimed to have lost 7,500 Bitcoins worth 7.5 million at the time, when he accidentally discarded a hard drive containing his private key. A backup of his keys might have prevented this. That's real. It's ridiculous. So just a simplified chain of ownership. In reality, a transaction can have more than one output and more than one more than one input and more than one output, I mean. So again, the way it works here is a transaction. Owner's public key over here has a hash code. Owner's, the other one's previous one's signature. And then if you do a transaction, use your public key to verify that you had this Bitcoin. And then to sign it, you use your private key, because anyone could take your public key, so you need both of them. And then the transaction of the owner one over here. You could basically take ownership of that or connect to, or whatever transaction you want. You want to send Bitcoins, you're going to need both your private public key. Like that. So wallets. A wallet stores information necessary to transact Bitcoins. While wallets are often described as a place to hold or store Bitcoins, due to the nature of the system, Bitcoins are inseparable from the blockchain transaction ledger. Yes, they don't actually hold it, it's just pretty much a key to it. So a better way to describe a wallet is something that stores the digital credentials for your Bitcoin holdings and allows one to access and spend them. Bitcoin uses public key cryptography, in which two cryptographic keys, one public and one private, are generated. At its most basic, a wallet is a collection of those keys, your private and public. That's pretty much what you need. There are several types of wallets. Software wallets connect to the network and allow spending Bitcoins in addition to holding the credentials that prove ownership. So yeah, you can have a software one online or just download it, and then you can deal with directly connecting to the network. So software wallets can be split further into two categories: full clients and lightweight clients. Full clients verify transactions directly on a local copy of the blockchain, over 134 gigabytes as of October 2017, or a subset of the blockchain, around 2 gigabytes, is based on a new version of Bitcoin. I'll go over that. It's called wallet pruning. Because of its size and complexity, the entire blockchain is not suitable for all computing devices. And just note, operating on a subset of the blockchain is known as pruning. If you go to Bitcoin.org, this was the site Satoshi Nakamoto first registered. Yeah, if you go over here, this is when they released 0.12.0, released of the version of it. This was February 23rd of last year, 2016. So wallet pruning with 0.12, it is possible to use wallet functionality in pruned mode. This can reduce the disk usage from currently around 60 gigabytes to around 2 gigabytes over there. However, rescans as well as the RPC's import wallet, import address, import private key are disabled. So basically, we'll disable some functions of that software wallet, so you can't do everything on it. And this is a ... So yeah, just that's relative to the Wikipedia page. So yeah, while pruning, you'd use a smaller version of that to directly connect to the blockchain. So or blockchain network. So lightweight clients, on the other hand, consult a full client to send and receive transactions without requiring a local copy of the entire blockchain. See simplified payment verification, SPV. This makes lightweight clients much faster to set up and allows them to be used on low power or low bandwidth devices such as smartphones. When using a lightweight wallet, however, the user must trust the server to a certain degree. When using a lightweight client, the server cannot steal Bitcoins, but it can report faulty values back to the user, or just makes it longer for you to buy or sell Bitcoins. It gets slowed down. And with both types of software walls, the users are responsible for keeping their private keys in a secure place. So yeah, even if you're a lightweight client, all you're doing is having a third party run the full client. So besides software wallets, internet services called online wallets offer similar functionality, but may be easier to use. In this case, credentials to access funds are stored with the online wallet provider rather than on the user's hardware. So yeah, you can store it online, or download a program. So as a result, the user must have complete trust in the wallet provider. A malicious provider or a breach in server security may cause entrusted Bitcoins to be stolen. An example of such security breach occurred in this one, this is MTGOX. I believe this in Japan is a Bitcoin exchange there in Japan in 2011. So yeah, you could also store in physical wallets here. So physical wallets store the credentials necessary to spend Bitcoins offline. Examples combine a novelty coin with these credentials printed on metal. So just go make your own coins. Others are simply paper printouts. Another type of wallet called a hardware wallet keeps credentials offline while facilitating transactions, like a USB stick over there, and I believe that's connected to a software one over there. So an actual Bitcoin transaction, including the fee from a web-based cryptocurrency exchange to a hardware wallet here. So there's online exchange. You use your hopefully secure USB hardware wallet over there, and then you could just exchange and do whatever you want to do, buy or sell Bitcoins. And here's another one. This is Electrum Bitcoin wallet. This person has 72 Bitcoins. That's a lot. Then you just put an address, public address, and send it like that. And you could also have a paper one here, Bitcoin paper wallet generated on bitaddress.org, and you could have it over there, and just paper, you could scan it and whatnot. There's your private key like that. And then Trezor hardware wallet. Yes, you can get a physical one like that. So a lot of other stuff. And here's some Ponzi scheme concerns. I believe I don't believe it's a Ponzi scheme, because when you're actually buying and selling stuff, this is a game changer. So various journalists, economists, and the Central Bank of Estonia avoids concerns that Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme. Eric Posner, a law professor at the University of Chicago, stated in 2013 that a real Ponzi scheme takes fraud. Bitcoin, by contrast, seems more like a collective delusion. I'm going to put this in quotation marks. Professor. In 2014, reports by the World Bank and the Swiss Federal Council examined the concerns and came to the conclusion that Bitcoin is not a Ponzi scheme. In 2017, billionaire Howard Marks referred to Bitcoin as a pyramid scheme. Or maybe a trapezoid scheme or something. So on September 12, 2017, Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, called Bitcoin a fraud and said he would fire anyone in his firm caught trading it. Zero Hedge claimed that the same day Damon made this statement, JP Morgan also purchased a large amount of Bitcoins for its clients. Oh man, it's genius. On December 13, 2017, Dimon followed up and compared Bitcoin to a bubble, saying it was only useful for drug dealers in countries like North Korea. And on September 22nd, 2017, hedge fund Blockswater subsequently accused JP Morgan of market manipulation and filed a market abuse complaint with Swedish Financial Supervisory Authority. Going further, legal tax status and regulation. Because of Bitcoin's decentralized nature, restrictions or bans on it are impossible to enforce, although its use can be criminalized. So there's all those ways of system messing up. So Unicode, just a reference. Unicode is a computing industry standard for the consistent encoding, representation, and handling of text expressed in most of the world's writing systems. The latest versions contains a repertoire of 136,75, or just over 136,000 characters, covering 139 modern and historic scripts, as well as multiple symbol sets. The Unicode standard is maintained in conjunction with ISO, IE, whatnot, and both are code for code identical. So in other words, yeah, these are just some coding standards. So if you're going to go build a computer, a new program, you can just download all this and you have them there. Your computer can run them and whatnot. And now let's look further into public key cryptography, just a bit further. So public key cryptography, or asymmetric cryptography, is any cryptographic system that uses pairs of keys, public keys, which may be decimated widely, and private keys, which are only known to the owner. And this accomplishes two functions: authentication, which is when the public key is used to verify that a holder of the private paired key sent a message, and encryption, whereby only the holder of the paired private key can decrypt a message encrypted within the public key. In a public key encryption system, any person can encrypt a message using the public key of the receiver, but such a message can only be decrypted with the receiver's private key. For this to work, it must be computationally easy for a user to generate a public and private key pair to be used for encryption and decryption. And the strength of a public key cryptography system relies on a degree of difficulty, computational, and practicality for a properly generated private key to be determined from the corresponding public key. Security then depends only on keeping the private key private, and the public key may be published without compromising security. And here's again that Alice analogy here. So this one, there's a large number generator usually, and then what it does is it does key generation algorithm. That's a one-way function, creates a mathematically related public and private key that you can't find what the private key is from the public one alone. But then when you throw in the private, it can verify that the private is connected to that public one. So an unpredictable, typically large and random number is used to begin generation of an acceptable pair of keys suitable for use by an asymmetric key algorithm. Again, here's that same image as above. So you encrypt with Alice's key. So this is Alice's public key, and then can only be decrypted by Alice's private key. So you could use anyone's other public key. You just go take somebody else's, Ken's one, or someone else. But only their private key can unlock that, whatever the message was. So in an asymmetric key encryption scheme, anyone can encrypt messages using the public key, but only the holder of the of the paired private key can decrypt. Security depends on the secrecy of the private key. So here is an example again of that Diffie-Hellman key exchange scheme, and I'll move this over. Oops. Separate that. So yeah, each party generates a public-private key pair and distributes the public key after obtaining an authentic copy of each other's public key. So we both get the public ones. Alice and Bob can compute a shared secret offline. The shared secret can be used, for instance, as the key for a symmetric cipher. That other antique cipher stuff like that. So you could put this in. So Bob's public key and Alice's private key combines the keys. So yeah, you could use it, you can combine it to write a message here, and then Bob won't know Alice's private one, but if Bob throws in Alice's private one here, Alice's public one, and then using Bob's private because they're all interconnected, this means that only Bob can open this one, only Bob can open this message to see what was inside. Bob or Alice, I believe, as well, because she's already the one that sent it. But yeah, that's pretty much the idea. So you use other person's public key, you could throw your own one in there so that you know it's from you. It's quite ingenious stuff like that. And then you know it's you because they can verify by using your public key that it's mathematically related to the private key. But you always just keep your private keys related. So MES note, to better understand this, always keep in mind that a public key is mathematically related to its private key. Thus can mathematically send messages to other public keys or whatever, and can only be unlocked using the associated private key. Again, this is under the assumption that it is mathematically difficult obtaining a private key from a public key, or the mathematically sent message to a public key or holder of the key. Yes, put that in bracket, or holder of the key, however way you want to word it. So now let's read up on Satoshi Nakamoto a bit. Very intriguing character or characters. So Satoshi Nakamoto is the name used by the unknown person or persons who designed Bitcoin and created its original reference implementation. As part of the implementation, they also devised the first blockchain database. In the process, they were the first to solve the double spending problem for digital currency. They were active in the development of Bitcoin until December 2010. And Nakamoto has claimed to be a man living in Japan, born on April 5th, 1975. But however, speculation about the true identity of Nakamoto has mostly focused on a number of cryptography and computer science experts of non-Japanese descent living in the United States and Europe. As of May 24, 2017, Nakamoto is believed to own up to roughly 1 million bitcoins, with a value estimated at approximately $4 billion USD as of September 2017. So Satoshi Nakamoto, born, claimed April 5th, 1975, Japan, nationality Japanese, inventing Bitcoin, implementing the first blockchain, deploying the first decentralized digital currency, and scientific degrees, digital currencies, or fields, computer science, cryptography. So development of Bitcoin. In October 2008, Nakamoto published a paper on the cryptography mailing list on Metsdown.com describing the Bitcoin digital currency. It was titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. In January 2009, Nakamoto released the first Bitcoin software that launched the network and the first units of the Bitcoin cryptocurrency called Bitcoins. So Satoshi Nakamoto released the version 0.1 of Bitcoin software on SourceForge on January 9th, 2009. Nakamoto claimed that work on the writing of the code began in 2007. The inventor of Bitcoin knew that due to its nature, the core design would have to be able to support a broad range of transaction types. and the implemented solution enabled specialized codes and data fields from the start through use of a predictive script. Yeah, very interesting stuff there. So Nakamoto created a website with a domain name bitcoin.org and continued to collaborate with other developers on the Bitcoin software until mid-2010. Around this time, he handed over control of the source code repository and network alert key to Gavin Anderson, transferred several related domains to various prominent members of the Bitcoin community, and stopped his involvement in the project. Until shortly before his absence and handover, Nakamoto made all modifications to the source code himself. Wow. The inventor left a message in the first mined block, which reads, the ×3 January 2009 Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. Very amazing. Even that's cryptic to the max. The text refers to a headline in the Times published on 3 January 2009. And yeah, I believe that's a British mainstream newspaper or magazine or whatever you call it. Published on January 3rd, 2009. It is a strong indication that the first block was mined no earlier than this date. The Genesis block has a timestamp of 18:15:05 GMT. Yeah, or Greenwich mean time for GMT on January 3rd, 2009. This block is unlike all other blocks in that it doesn't have a previous block to reference. This required the use of a custom code to mine it. Timestamps for subsequent blocks indicated that Nakamoto did not try to mine all the early blocks solely for himself. As the sole predominant early miner, the inventor was awarded Bitcoin at Genesis and for 10 days afterwards. Except for test transactions, these remain unspent since mid-January 2009. The public Bitcoin transaction log shows that Nakamoto's known addresses contain roughly 1 million Bitcoin. As of August 18, 2017, this is worth $4 billion. I believe it sounds like $6 billion or something. Due to the hard fork in which Bitcoin Cash was made, creating 1 Bitcoin Cash for every Bitcoin in circulation. We'll go over forks later on in this video. He also owns roughly 1 million Bitcoin Cash worth $675 million. So whatever it is, it's a rich man or person or group. Characteristics and identity. Nakamoto did not disclose any personal information when discussing technical matters. He provided some commentary on banking and fractional reserve banking. On his P2P Foundation profile as of 2011, Nakamoto claimed to be a 37-year-old man who lived in Japan, but some speculated he was unlikely to be Japanese due to his use of perfect English and his Bitcoin software not being documented or labeled in Japanese. Occasionally, British English spellings and terminology such as the phrase bloody hard in both source code comments and forum postings led to speculation that Nakamoto, or at least one individual in the consortium claiming to be him, was of Commonwealth or British related origin. Possible identities. There is still doubt about the real identity of Satoshi Nakamoto. Some considered Nakamoto might be a team of people. Dan Kaminsky, security researcher who read the Bitcoin code, said Nakamoto could be either a team of people or a genius. Laszlo Hansky, a former Bitcoin core developer who had emailed Nakamoto, had the feeling the code was too well designed for one person. Very, very interesting founding. Quote, founding Bitcoin by, quote, anonymous person or group, hashtag NWO, if you haven't seen my early videos on why I am skeptical about all this anonymous stuff. Yeah, so anyways, let's keep going further into this. Here, this was on, the white paper. Let's take a brief look at it. So the bitcoin.org, if you go on that website, this is the one that Satoshi originally registered the domain of it. And that's how it looks. You got some creepy eyes over there in the images. Anyways, let's go further. Let's look at the white paper. Before we get to the white paper, I just want to look at the definition of white paper from Investopedia. What is a white paper? White paper is an informational document issued by a company to promote or highlight the features of a solution, product, or service. White papers are designed to be used as a marketing tool before a sale, not as a user manual or other technical document developed to provide support to the user after making a purchase. So now let's look at the Bitcoin white paper here, bitcoin.org/bitcoin.pdf. So Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic system by Satoshi Nakamoto, or Satoshi N at gmx.com, but www.bitcoin.org. So abstract, a purely peer-to-peer version. I'm just going to go over some of the highlights of it. It's very, very fascinating paper. I highly recommend everyone read it all. So a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. Digital signatures provide part of the solution, but the main benefits are loss of a trusted third party is still required to prevent double spending. We propose a solution to the double spending problem using a peer-to-peer network. The network timestamps transaction by hashing them into an ongoing chain of hash-based proof of work. So remember that cryptographic hash is just the one-way hash functions. So easy one way, difficult any other. So you can verify, but you can't just find what the input was. Forming a record that cannot be changed without redoing the proof of work. The longest chain not only serves as proof of the sequence of events witnessed, but proof that it came from the largest pool of CPU power. As long as the majority of CPU power is controlled by nodes that are not cooperating to attack the network, they'll generate the longest chain and outpace attackers. The network itself requires a minimal structure. Messages are broadcast on a best effort basis, and nodes can leave and rejoin the network at will, accepting the longest proof of work chain as proof of what happened as what happened while they're gone. So you can leave, the computer can leave and come back as long as it accepts the blockchain as is when they left off and what happened when they were gone. So very, very fascinating stuff here. So transactions, we define an electronic coin as a chain of digital signatures. Each owner transfers the coin to the next by digitally signing a hash of the previous transaction and the public key of the next owner and adding these to the end of the coin. A payee can verify the signatures to verify the chain of ownership. Yeah, so the kind of way that it works over here is I kind of showed above. So if you have this owner want to transfer this Bitcoin over, or this whatever Bitcoins over to this one here, this owner would go here and then send a hash with the public key, and then this would sign it using the private key, and then you can verify using this one that yeah, it is in fact transferred over there, and likewise onto over here. So you can transfer by using the public key and the other one's private key and sign that you've transferred your Bitcoin. The problem, of course, is the payee can't verify that one of the owners did not double spend, meaning you do this one and then sign it twice. Or made another copy of it and just made a copy and sent them again. So you give them a bunch of fake stuff over. You give them the Bitcoin, they give you whatever you're selling it for, $100 and whatnot. So common, yes, did not double spend the coin. So common solution is to introduce a trusted central authority or mint that checks every transaction for double spending. After each transaction, the coin must be returned to the mint to issue a new coin, and only coins issued directly from the mint are trusted not to be double spent. The problem with this solution is that the fate of the entire money system depends on the company running the mint, with every transaction having to go through them just like a bank. Now we need a way for the payee to know that the previous owners did not sign any earlier transactions. Yeah, so for our purposes, the earliest transaction is the one that counts, so we don't care about later attempts to double spend. Alright, so the only way to confirm the absence of a transaction is to be aware of all transactions. So yeah, you got to know what every single thing happened, and that's the only way you'll know, okay, there isn't some other transactions. Or you confirm there is no random one involved. So in the mint-based model, the mint was aware of all the transactions and decided which was first, or which arrived first. To accomplish this without a trusted party, transactions must be publicly announced, and we need a system of participants to agree on a single history. So you got to publicly announce all the transactions, and we need a agreed upon single history, or that longest blockchain of the order in which they were received. The payee needs proof that at the time of each transaction, the majority of nodes agreed it was the first received. So all you need is a majority saying, okay, we have this order here, and we've agreed that this is the order, and that's the order we're going to follow. That's the long blockchain. So timestamp server. The solution we propose begins with a timestamp server. A timestamp server works by taking a hash of a block of items to be timestamped and widely publishing that hash, such as in a newspaper or Usenet posts. Not sure what this one is, 2-5. The timestamp proves that the date must be or must have existed at the time. Yeah, I believe using it just another computer system to send out the time was or whatnot. But anyways, the timestamp proves that the data must have existed at the time. Obviously, in order to get into the hash, each timestamp includes a previous timestamp in its hash, forming a chain. So you have hashes that include all the time, and the previous one has a previous one, previous one has a previous one, which each additional timestamp reinforcing the ones before. So you have a long chain of hashes that include the timestamp of each one, and going further. So proof of work. To implement a distributed timestamp server on a peer-to-peer basis, we will need to use a proof of work system similar to Adam Back's Hashcash, rather than newspaper or Usenet post. The proof of work involves scanning for a value that, when hashed, such as with SHA-256, the hash begins with a number of 0 bits, and again, bits is unit of information. I'll go over it a bit later as well after this segment. So yeah, the average work requires exponential the number of zeros bits required, and can be verified by executing a single hash. And again, remember that hash, when you're dealing with cryptographic hash functions, it's just a one-way function, very easy in one way, very hard in the other one. So this one, we're gonna find a hash value that begins with a number of 0 bits, and that's by scanning a value at one hash. So you can do this. That's the CPU proof of work power. So for our timestamp network, we implement the proof of work by incrementing a nonce, and I'll go over further into a nonce. But nonce basically in cryptography is just a random or semi-random number used only once. In this case, it is used to increment a value to place into the hash function to obtain a new value, eventually obtaining a hash that begins with a number of 0 bits. Again, bits unit of information. I'll go over those and nonce and bit after this. So basically, you're going to be incrementing that value by another number called a nonce in the block until a value is found that gives the block's hash the required 0 bits. Once the CPU effort has been expended to make it satisfy the proof of work, is going to be going in a loop, finding incrementing it until you finally get the 0 bits, or begins with number of 0 bits, whatever when it is. Anyways, once CPU effort has been expended to make it satisfy the proof of work, the block cannot be changed without redoing the work. So if you want to change the block, you got to redo wherever you left off. As later blocks are chained after it, the work to change the block would include redoing all the blocks after it. So if you were somewhere here and you want to change this block, you need to change this and this one. So you got to go inside this one here. There's the hash. You add a nonce, then you get a new text value, keep adding, and then you get a new text one until you get the 0 bits, or beginning with 0 bits, whichever one that is. I'm not sure which one it's talking about. But anyways, and then you got to do the next one. Then you got to do the next one, and then you got to catch up, and I'll explain in a bit too here. So the proof of work also solves the problem of determining representation and majority decision making. If the majority were based on one IP address, one vote, it could be subverted by anyone able to allocate many IP addresses. Proof of work is essentially one CPU, one vote. The majority decision is represented by the longest chain, which has the greatest proof of work effort invested in it. If a majority of CPU power is controlled by honest nodes, the honest chain will grow the fastest and outpace any competing chains. To modify a passed block, an attacker would have to redo the proof of work of the block and all blocks after it, and then catch up and surpass the work of the honest nodes, because it's always majority decisions. So you got to take over the full blockchain, and then you can finally run the show. But we will show that later that the probability of a slower attacker catching up diminishes exponentially as subsequent blocks are added. MES node IE solves the Byzantine Generals Problem over here, and that's this part over here, solves the problem of determining representation in majority decision making. So to compensate for increasing hardware speed, as computers get faster and varying interest in running nodes over time, the proof of work difficulty is determined by a moving average, targeting an average number of blocks per hour. And yeah, if they're generated too fast, the difficulty increases. So yeah, it even targets the rate you're doing. If an attacker comes and tries to do it really, really fast, well, it'll increase that speed as well. So there isn't, so it makes it even harder. So incentive. By convention, the first transaction in a Yeah, and a block is a special transaction that starts a new coin owned by the creator of the block. So that's the first one. This adds an incentive for nodes to support the network and provides a way to initially distribute coins in circulation since there is no central authority to issue them. The steady addition of a constant amount of new coins is analogous to gold miners expending resources to add gold to circulation. In our case, it is CPU and electricity, because to go through the proof of work to add all the blocks together and whatnot and create new ones. The incentive can also be funded with transaction fees. If the output value of a transaction is less than its input value, the difference is a transaction fee that is added to the incentive value of the block containing the transaction. Once a predetermined number of coins have entered circulation, the incentive can transition entirely to transaction fees and can be completely inflation-free. That's the amazing part, is inflation free. So the incentive may help encourage nodes to stay honest. If a greedy attacker is able to assemble more CPU power than all the honest nodes, he would have to choose between using it to defraud people by stealing back his payments or using it to generate new coins. Yeah, because remember, you have to change anything back, you have to go back, change one, and change all the ones ahead. So however far back you have to change, it'll just do more and more work. It'll take longer, and or you could just create new coins and get rich to the max. So he ought to find it more profitable to play by the rules, such rules that favor him with more new coins than everyone else combined, than to undermine the system and the validity of his wealth. Because if you change one thing there, and everyone's like, oh, I'm out of here. Unless unless the attacker's goal was to undermine the system. But even then, a local copy of the entire blockchain could be presumably retrieved and used to replace the original blockchain. That's assuming people want to go jump back onto that one, but at least all the stuff's there. Especially if you're dealing with Steemit. Yeah, let's erase that possibility, because I'm pretty sure. So it is, because with Steemit is the social media one, so it's not fully based on the money. Yeah, so if you want to just copy it all there, or does something happen with the system, you can just go back from a previous one. You have all your files, all your articles, and whatnot. Just quite amazing. So yeah, but nonetheless, there's some incentives for people not to undermine the system. Even if they were to take all the CPU power, they could still follow the rules and just create new coins for themselves and whatnot. Yeah, which doesn't wreck the other people's monies that are involved. So anyways, going further, privacy is page 6. The traditional banking model achieves a level of privacy by limiting access to information to the parties involved in a trusted third party. The necessity to announce all transactions publicly precludes this method, but privacy can still be maintained by breaking the flow of information in another place, by keeping public keys anonymous. Because you're making everything private, but if you make the public keys anonymous, the public can see that someone is sending an amount to someone else, but without information linking the transaction to anyone. This is similar to the level of information released by stock exchanges, where the time and size of individual trades or the tape is made public, but without telling them who the parties are, but you can still backtrace that. As an additional firewall, a new key pair should be used for each transaction to keep them from being linked to a common owner. Some linking is still unavoidable, with multi-input transactions would necessarily reveal that their inputs were owned by the same owner, so you can still trace it back if you do your homework. The risk is that if the owner of a key is revealed, linking could reveal other transactions that belong to the same owner. Be very interesting to find it. So basically, here's a new privacy one before you have identities, transactions, trusted third party, counterparty, party. That's the ones all that's hidden, and then that's hidden from the public. In the new privacy model, all your identities are hidden, but the transactions are public. But they try to make it somewhat anonymous, and yeah. But nonetheless, you can still trace it back if you do your homework. But yeah, just be careful out there. And just note, the rest of the Bitcoin white paper are outside the scope of this video, so make sure to read it and its accompanying references for more information, especially the mathematics involved there. I may cover Bitcoin in further detail in later videos, so stay tuned and let me know if I should jump into it. So now I mentioned bits, 0 bits. Just want to go over it a bit, just to get a broad idea of it. The bit, or a portmanteau, or a combination of words of binary digits. So binary, so BI, and then digit, yeah, just the T there, yeah, bit. So actually a B, B and then the it. So binary digit, B digit, B it, bit, is a basic unit of information that used in computing and digital communications. A binary digit can only have one of two values and may be physically represented with a two-state device. So that's why they want to use it A lot of devices just have on, off, or low level, high level, so on. So we want to just work with that easier to have a physical device that uses 2 values. And that could be arbitrary, whatever you want. But so that's a binary digit as opposed to the 10 system with your fingers, or 10, and the 10 base 1. So these state values are commonly represented as either a 0 or 1. The 2 values of a binary digit can also be interpreted as logical values: true, false, yes, no, algebraic signs, plus, minus, activation states, on, off, or any other valued attribute. The correspondence between these values and physical states of the underlying storage or device is a matter of convention, and different assignments may be used even within the same device or program. The length of the binary number may be referred to as its bit length. So in its storage in modern semiconductor memory, such as dynamic random access memory, or RAM, just write RAM like that. The 2 values of a bit may be represented by 2 levels of electric charge stored in a capacitor. In certain types of programmable logic arrays and read-only memory, a bit may be represented by the presence or absence of a conducting path. So all this on-off binary stuff. It's basically just binary, 2 ways, 2 paths. At a certain point of a circuit, an optical disc, a bit is encoded as the presence or absence of a microscopic pit on a reflective surface. In one-dimensional barcodes, bits are encoded as a thickness of alternating black and white lines. Very fascinating. So multiple bits. Multiple bits can be expressed and represented in several ways. For convenience of representing commonly recurring groups of bits in information technology, several units of information have traditionally been used. The most common unit is the unit byte, coined by Bernard Bolsholz in June 1956, which historically was used to represent a group of bits used to encode a single character of text until UTF-8 multi-byte encoding took over. Okay, interesting. In a computer, and for this reason it was used as the basic addressable element in many computer architectures. The trend in hardware design converged on the most common implementation of using 8 bits per byte, as it is widely used today. And however, because of the ambiguity of relying on the underlying hardware design, the unit octet was defined explicitly denote a sequence of 8 bits. Computers usually manipulate bits in groups of a fixed size, conventionally named words. Like the byte, the number of bits in a word also varies with the hardware design, and it is typically between 8 and 80 bits. Or even more in some specialized computers. In the 21st century, retail, personal, or server computers have a word size of 32 or 64 bits. Here's some other ones over there. It's a kibit, gigabit, or gigabit there. I believe most of them use bytes now, gigabytes or whatnot. And there's the decimal version of it. There's a binary version of it. So interesting stuff. So I just want to go over that cryptographic nonce just for background. So in cryptography, a nonce is an arbitrary number that may be only used once. It is similar in spirit to a nonce word. I'll go over that. Hence the name. It is often a random or pseudo-random number issued in an authentication protocol to ensure that old communications cannot be reused in replay attacks. They can also be useful as initialization vectors and in cryptographic hash functions. And here's typical client-server communications using during a nonce-based authentication process, including both a server nonce and a client nonce. So here's one, just send a random, just a number there, just to initialize or authenticate the server, and then all of a sudden this sends back. So it will send a message, get nonce, and we'll send it, okay, now send me the login info. Okay, you're good. So it could be used stuff like that. So just used once, and it's related or similar to the nonce word. If you look at dictionary, a nonce word is the word occurring invented or used just for a particular occasion. For example, the word mile consuming in the sentence, the wagon beginning to fail us into its slow and mile consuming clatter. So you just make up a word for a specific case like that. Now let's go over further into trusted timestamping that Bitcoin uses. Trusted timestamping is a process of securely keeping track of the creation and modification times of a document. Security here means that no one, not even the owner of the document, should be able to change it once it has been recorded, provided that the timestamper's integrity is never compromised. The administrative aspect involves setting up a publicly available trusted timestamp management infrastructure to collect and process and renew timestamps. History: the idea of timestamping information is actually centuries old. For example, when Robert Hooke discovered Hooke's law in 1660, he did not want to publish it yet, but wanted it to be able to claim priority, so he published the anagram CEIINOSS, and later later published a translation TNS, whatever, Latin for as an extension, so as a force. Similarly, I believe he just put a timestamp there, saying he'll do it later. And similar to Galileo first published his discovery of the phases of Venus in the anagram form. Alright, interesting. So Sir Isaac Newton, in responding to questions from Leibniz in a letter in 1677, concealed the details of his fluxional technique with an anagram, and the foundations of these operations is evident enough, he stated, in fact, but because I cannot proceed with the explanation of it now, I prefer to conceal it thus, and he puts this anagram or just random words or formats. So I believe anagram is just rearranging of letters and words. So yeah, very interesting here. So he puts this giant weird one like that. On this foundation, I've also tried to simplify the theories which concern the squaring of curves, and I have arrived at certain general theorems. Okay, so that's his timestamp there. So trusted timestamping is an example here. Trusted or timestamping authority, or TSA, and here's within a company. Calculate the hash. You get it. You send that hash to this. It adds a timestamp, and it has a new one-way function hash. In there, apply a private key of the TSA, so you don't know what it is, and then it sends it back with a timestamp over here and is stored together. So that's getting a timestamp from a trusted third party, and then you could check the trusted timestamp. Yeah, you could you could do that over here. You could check it, but you have the timestamp, and in here you could calculate the hash or whatnot. But you can just apply public key of timestamping authority. To make sure you put your data with this timestamp, you get a hash, and make sure if it's equal or not. And I guess everyone has they all use that private public key stuff. So you have the private one in there, it can only be checked with the private one, and then make sure that the data is connected in it as well. So if the calculated hash code equals the result of the decrypted signature, neither the document or the timestamp was changed, and the timestamp was issued by the TTP. If not, or this is trusted timestamp partner or whatever it is, party. If not, either of the previous statements is not true. So there's checking correctness of a timestamp generated by a timestamping authority, TSA. So decentralized timestamping on the blockchain. With the advent of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, it has become possible to securely timestamp information in a decentralized and tamper-proof manner. Digital data can be hashed, and the hash can be incorporated into a transaction stored in the blockchain, which serves as a secure proof of the exact time at which the data existed. The proof is due to a tremendous amount of computational effort performed after the hash was submitted to the blockchain, and tampering with the timestamp would also lead to breaking the integrity of the entire digital currency, and this would result in the digital currency devaluing to zero. Because if you mess up the timestamp, everything just nothing makes sense anymore. No one's going to trust it anymore. So the decentralized timestamping approach using the blockchain has also found applications in other areas, such as in dashboard cameras to secure the integrity of the video files at the time that they're recording, so you don't get police modifying the cameras and whatnot, or the videos, or police doing that. So, or to prove priority for creative content and ideas shared on social media platforms. Like Steam. So creating your own cryptocurrency, I just want to put over here. So now the purpose of the above overview of cryptography and blockchain technology is to develop a broad understanding of the requirements and resources needed to develop a custom-made cryptocurrency, as well as to gauge the feasibility of new companies asking for investments. And I also believe it's about time people start smartening up about blockchain technology, which is pretty much taken over everything. So modify source code of another cryptocurrency. There's one method of creating your own crypto. The following is a good tutorial in understanding some of the procedures, albeit a technical background into programming is required, just to see how the kind of work you would need in modifying the open source Litecoin files, another cryptocurrency, to create a working cryptocurrency titled LearnCoin, as well as an associated wallet in there. So here's 6 parts in this video by Flexible or whatever. Just very interesting. Again, you need technical background on it, but just shows the kind of work you will need to do it. So this type of modification of source code is similar to a project fork, as I explained over. Bitcoin had a hard fork earlier to Bitcoin Cash. So in software engineering, a project fork happens when a developer takes a copy of source code from one software package and start independent development on it, creating a distinct and separate piece of software. The term often implies not merely a development branch, but also a split in the developer community, a form of schism. Free and open source software is that which, by definition, may be forked from the original development team without prior permission, without violating any copyright law. However, licensed forks of proprietary software, i.e. Unix also happens. You don't have to pay for it. So CoinDesk over here has a good guide on short guide to Bitcoin forks. Just want to go over the difference between a hard fork and a soft fork. So a hard fork, what is it? A hard fork is a software upgrade that introduces a new rule to the network that isn't compatible with the older software. You can think of a hard fork as an expansion of the rules, a new rule that allows block size to be 2 megabytes instead of 1 megabyte would require a hard fork because it's bigger now. What happens, nodes that continue running the old version, or nodes or computers of the software, will see the transactions as invalid. So to switch over the new chain and to continue mining valid blocks, all of the nodes in the network need to upgrade to the new rules. And here, what can go wrong? The problem comes when some sort of political impasse arises and a portion of the community decides to stick by the old rules no matter what. The hash rate or network computing power behind the old chain is irrelevant. What matters is that the data and rule set is still perceived to have value, and meaning miners still want to mine a chain and developers still want to support it. The Ethereum DAO hard fork was a perfect study of how a community can split over rules. So Ethereum is the other cryptocurrency blockchain technology. Yeah, so now if we have two blockchains using a variant of the software Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, both of which boast a different ethos and a different currency. So then soft fork is the difference as well, it's still compatible. So a soft fork, by contrast, any change that's backwards compatible, say instead of 1 megabyte blocks, a new rule might allow 500k blocks. So what happens, non-upgraded nodes will still see the new transactions as valid. 500k is less than 1 megabyte in this example. However, if non-upgraded nodes continue to mine blocks, the blocks they mine will be rejected by the upgraded nodes. This is why some forks need a majority of hash power in the network. Yeah, so interesting. So yeah, even then it's like they're not compatible the other way for those 500k blocks. So interesting. So what can go wrong when a soft fork is supported by only a minority of hash power in the network? It could become the shortest chain and get orphaned by the network, or it can act like a hard fork and one chain can split it off, so you need to make sure it's majority one there, so the chain's still working fine. So soft forks have been the most commonly used option to upgrade the Bitcoin blockchain so far because it's argued they present a lower risk of splitting the network. Past examples of successful soft forks include software upgrades like BIP66, which dealt with signature validation, and P2SH, which altered Bitcoin's address formatting. So now another way you could build your own cryptocurrency is build it on top of other blockchains such as Ethereum, and this is a new startup proof suite. And basically you can, here's a screenshot of it, you can go and just use their platform to create your own one. So this business proof also allows users to quickly create their own cryptocurrency built upon the Ethereum blockchain. Basically, proof serves as a user interface and the automated cryptocurrency creation engine for users or businesses that don't want to do their own programming. So that's one way you could do it. Or you could create your own cryptocurrency from scratch. The requirements, number of team members, and expertise required to create your own cryptocurrency from scratch is dependent on what exactly the purpose of your cryptocurrency/blockchain application you have in mind. From what I've gathered so far, it is not overly difficult into creating a cryptocurrency either from scratch or from modifying source code of other coins. But the main difficulty is understanding market demands and ensuring an ecosystem is put in place for your particular currency to be adopted, purchased, used to purchase, and publicly traded. And here is a good video that illustrates just some of the elements needed in creating your own cryptocurrency. So there's an algorithm, number of coins, rate of distribution, so that's the technical side, and the miners bringing currency into circulation, and save, spend, sell. And then you got the technology side, you got to get the e-wallets, exchange, e-commerce, and you got to get merchants willing to accept your Bitcoin, product, services, cashback, some other stuff, and discounts. And so this is the part, that main work, you got to look into it. So this is a good video to quickly get an overview of the kinds of questions you need to ask yourself and think about before embarking into creating your own cryptocurrency business or heavily investing into relatively unknown blockchain or cryptocurrency companies. So make sure they're following some good mission statements and ethos or whatever, and that they're explaining exactly how they're going to make it profitable, and what they're using, what they're doing, who they're getting, what merchants are going to be accepting theirs, and whatnot. So now let's go over a summary of all this. So I made this video as a quick way for me, and hopefully if you enjoyed too and learned, to basically obtain an overview into blockchain, cryptocurrency, and cryptography industry, into the whole industry, in order to better understand some of the mainstream concepts and definitions. To summarize these concepts, I've listed the main points covered in this video. So blockchain and cryptography here. A blockchain is a continuously growing list of records called blocks that are linked and used and secured using cryptography. Blockchains are inherently resistant to modification of the data. Blockchains can be used as a distributed ledger on a peer-to-peer network. Blockchains have high Byzantine fault tolerance. And yeah, the first distributed blockchain was thought up by an anonymous person or group known as Satoshi Nakamoto in 2008, implemented in 2009 as part of the digital cryptocurrency Bitcoin to serve as the public ledger for all transactions. Applications of blockchain technology are endless because they allow for the transfer of value without powerful middlemen or bureaucracies, and new applications of blockchain outside the typical distributed ledger are often referred to as blockchain 2.0. Blockchain technology adoption and currency trade volumes are growing exponentially. And yeah, here's a plug. And my favorite blockchain technology is in the social media, blogging, crypto, value-driven content creating platform Steemit. And yeah, follow me, which runs on the Steemit blockchain. Follow me at MES there, steemit.com/@MES, #GetOnSteam. So now the distributed ledger, peer-to-peer proof of work. So a distributed ledger is a consensus of replicated, shared, and synchronized digital data spread across multiple sites, countries, or institutions without a central administrator or storage. And the nodes or the parties involved are computers in the case of, in the case of online distributed computing. So peer-to-peer, P2P networking or computing is a distributed application architecture splitting tasks and workloads among peers/computers. Proof of work protocols are basically mathematical puzzles that require high CPU computation power, or computational power and time to solve, and used to ensure all parties are playing by the rules of the system. So there is a proof of work you need to go through. So cryptography, polyalphabetic cipher, symmetric key, asymmetric key / public key. Go over those kind of cryptography. So cryptography is the practice of secure communications that prevent access from third parties. Alphabet shift ciphers were antique forms of cryptography where an alphabet was shifted by a number of positions to encrypt and shifted back to decrypt. A slightly more advanced antique cipher is known as a polyalphabetic cipher, which involves multiple alphabetic shifts, often by the relative numeric alphabet positions of individual letters in a keyword, like the ABC one I did. Modern cryptography methods include symmetric key cryptography and asymmetric key cryptography, or the public key one. Symmetric key cryptography involves both parties to share a single secret to encrypt and decrypt a message. Asymmetric key or public key, I believe public key is more common, but I just put it there just because lines better with the asymmetric headline there. Cryptography involves creating two mathematically related keys, private and public, in which the public is used to encrypt. It's used to encrypt right here, and its corresponding private key is used to decrypt. For example, to send you a secret message, I can send your public key to encrypt it. Thus, only your mathematical related private key can be able to decrypt it. #genius. And also here, note, you will know that the message is from me because I use my private key in the creation of that message there, the encrypted message, and you can verify by using my public key and ensure that, okay, it is working. Yeah, so you'll know it's from my public key and so on. So both the creation of the public-private pair as well as the public key encryption process uses a mathematical one-way function. The creation of the public-private generation one-way function is initialized by a suitable large number generator, or a large random number generator. So one-way functions, cryptographic hash functions, bits, Byzantine Generals Problem. A one-way function is a mathematical function that is easy to calculate in one direction, but very difficult in the reverse direction, i.e. Can't feasibly obtain a private key from just knowing the person's public key. Yeah, so that's one way there. It's again that use that paint mixture analogy, which is quite amazing. So a one-way function is analogous to mixing different colors of paint together. It is easy to mix but very difficult to separate the paint once they are mixed. Again, the paint one is a great analogy. A hash function is any function that maps data of arbitrary size to data of fixed size, called the hash value. The bit or binary digit is a basic unit of information or data used in computing. Using computing, having two values, 1 or 0, often represented by two levels of an electric charge in random access memory RAM, or the presence absence of a conducting path at a certain point of a circuit. And a byte or octet is a group of 8 bits, usually the size of a word, or just a typical word. So a cryptographic hash function is essentially a one-way or an one-way function. That's pretty much what the difference cryptographic one and hash one is. Hash maps it on the fixed size, and then cryptographic one is a one-way way of doing it. Is a one way of doing it. So the Byzantine Generals Problem is a problem of ensuring a majority consensus from different parties, generals, computers, given some inherent individual characteristics of each party, including, quote, traitors. So it's a majority. You want to do majority because any haphazard decision is worse than choosing the wrong decision unanimously. So Byzantine fault tolerance refers to a system's ability to solve various types of the Byzantine Generals Problem. So let's look at Bitcoin wallets. Bitcoin. Let's write wallets. Don't need that there. Software wallets, full client, lightweight. Let's fix that up. So Bitcoin wallets, software wallets, full client, lightweight client, as well as put a better sign here like that, and pruning mode. So Bitcoin is the first and currently the largest decentralized cryptocurrency in the world. Bitcoin uses a peer-to-peer distributed network that uses a proof-of-work chain to overcome Byzantine failures and reach a coherent global blockchain. Bitcoin uses the public key cryptography protocol, or the asymmetric key, to ensure secure transactions and ownership of bitcoins. A Bitcoin wallet is something, physical, software, or online, that stores the digital credentials to gain access to bitcoins you own, i.e. at the most basic level, just your private public keys. A software wallet allows for the connection to the network and for spending bitcoins. So that's the difference. It adds connection to it as well. So two types of software wallets: full client and lightweight client. Full clients involve verifying transactions directly on a local copy of the entire 134 gigabyte Bitcoin blockchain. But also full clients, however, have a pruned mode that allows for a much smaller subset of the blockchain to be used while disabling other functions. So lightweight clients simply connect to a third-party client, hence have the ability to be used on low power, low bandwidth devices such as smartphones. But the downside is if you want to buy or sell quickly, you're going to be dealing with the third-party clients. Just trust that they're giving you all the stuff they need. But they still can't steal from you. They can't steal your bitcoins and whatnot. So now let's look at Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin whitepaper, and double spending, timestamping, and mining. So Satoshi Nakamoto, or put this in quotation, is the name used by the founder or founders behind Bitcoin's design and original implementation. The identities of Satoshi is unknown. MES note, I don't buy this for a second, hashtag. And W, that's just, I'll explain later in a bit. Basically, the CIA can spy on you through your TV even when it's turned off. That's one reason, or turned off, hashtag throw your TV out the window. So anyways, going further, Satoshi claimed to be born in Japan on 5th or April 5th, 1975. In October 31st, 2008, Satoshi, or that's Halloween, published a white paper titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system on the cryptography mail listing list mailing list at metstown.com. I believe it doesn't run anymore. I can check the website, but I'll maybe do another video later on it. So on January 9, 2009, Satoshi launched the first ever Bitcoin software that launched the network and creation of the first ever Bitcoins. Satoshi claimed to begin writing the code in 2007. Satoshi registered the domain bitcoin.org and continued to collaborate until mid-2010. Satoshi handed the source code and network alert key to Gavin Anderson, transferred related domains to various various prominent members of the Bitcoin community, and stopped involvement in the Bitcoin project. So about mid-2010, Satoshi left a text message in the first main block. The Times, 3 January 2009, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks, a headline for the British mainstream news outlet The Times. Very interesting. Genesis block has a timestamp of 18:15:05 GMT, or Greenwich Mean Time, on January 3rd, 2009. So I'm putting these numbers in because I do look at symbolism and numbers to see if we can find any patterns. Satoshi has roughly 1 million bitcoins, worth now about 6 billion USD as of October 11th, 2017. I believe it's like 6,000 per one Bitcoin. It's ridiculous. The implementation of Bitcoin was the first ever blockchain database and first digital currency that solved the double spending problem. Double spending is an error in which a digital token or currency is duplicated or falsified. I spent more than one, since this is just a digital file. You just copy it multiple times. So Bitcoin uses a proof-of-work system involving solving a cryptographic hash function in the creation of peer-to-peer distributed server, or creation of a peer-to-peer distributed server to cryptographically timestamp each block, thus preventing double spending. Yeah, actually I forgot to include this part here too. So cryptographically timestamp each block in which the longest chain of these blocks, chain right here. Basically these blocks are called the blockchain, is the agreed upon order of time-stamped events, thus preventing double spending. So everyone's agreeing upon this long blockchain at basically always with the majority CPU power. So trusted timestamping is a process of ensuring the creation and modification of time of data is securely kept track of. Methods of timestamping include a centralized authority, i.e. a mint or bank, or a decentralized blockchain, i.e. using cryptographic hash functions. Hash functions stored in a blockchain. Now, each time-stamped block of data contains a previous timestamp, thus forming a chain. If the majority of nodes, or quote nodes, or peers, i.e. computers, are quote honest, then they will form the longest chain, thus solving the Byzantine Generals Problem as well. Hashtag amazing. Subverting the blockchain, i.e. modifying a previous block, requires redoing the proof of work of that particular block as well as all blocks after it, and catching up with and surpassing the honest chain, hence forming the longest chain and proving majority CPU power and achieving majority consensus. The proof of work of the difficulty increases based on the speed of which blocks are generated, thus hindering subversion even with really high CPU power. And also the incentive is literally if the government wants to try to wreck blockchain. Because if someone's greedy, they can just use it to make more money as opposed to making it go to zero, unless they have a competing cryptocurrency in there. So a lot of big league stuff there, but I think very unlikely. So building your own cryptocurrency, modifying source code, forks, hard versus soft. So many cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Steam are open source. Modifying the source code of an existing cryptocurrency is fairly easy if you have the right technical skills, the right technical programming background. A project fork is when a project fork is when a significant portion of the development team split off and begin independent development of a copy of the source code. A hard fork is when additions to the software are incompatible with the older software. A soft fork is when additions are still compatible with the older software, but still both of them have issues. Both types of forks can have problems if not addressed properly. It is quite easy to simply use a third-party service to automatically build your own cryptocurrency upon other blockchains, namely the Ethereum blockchain, which is designed with this purpose in mind. Creating your own cryptocurrency from scratch may require a team of software developers, but the real challenge is in maintaining an ecosystem of merchants, products, services, and cash exchanges. Thus, whether you decide to create your own cryptocurrency or heavily invest in a relatively unknown blockchain/cryptocurrency, much of the time should be spent on understanding the company vision and specific applications to real-world and market issues, as well as measures taken to address these challenges. And Bitcoin mining refers to the process of doing a proof of work to create new coins, analogous to gold mining. I should have probably put that way above summary in the Bitcoin summary. But anyways, so hopefully this video helped you gain an overview of the cryptography, blockchain, and cryptocurrency world that the quote real world seems to be gradually shifting towards. While these technologies pose some great solutions to some pressing issues of our time, it is always important to view them as a tool nonetheless, which can be used for both good or evil. So full disclosure, my view is it's all trickle down technology. So in full disclosure, for those who have not seen my earlier videos, in particular my 9/11 video series, you go to mes.fm/911-truth-playlist, and free energy series at mes.fm/free energy-playlist. Let's fix that up over there. So playlist. I am of the view that most of these technologies, advancements in technologies, are just due to the powers that shouldn't be trickling down these technologies. If you see my earlier video 9/11, I believe there's some free energy tech used to turn all the towers into dust. They didn't collapse, as a lot of people were mistaken by that. So I believe that all these are just trickle down technologies, and basically gradually, so that it doesn't cause too much of a disruption to the ruling establishment. And my view also extends to blockchain technology as well, which can both remove authoritarian centralization of power, but ironically increase centralization. Think about it. Basically, note that the usual accompanying also cover story with such new technologies, i.e. anonymous Bitcoin blockchain paper by Satoshi Nakamoto. This is similar to Google's quote founding in a garage BS story. Hashtag don't you believe it. I tweeted this one out. It's actually real. We are expected to believe CIA/deep state surveillance tool Google was founded in someone's quote garage. Hashtag shares from their own Wikipedia page. On their domain for Google was registered on December 15, 1997, and the company was incorporated on December 4th, 1998. It was based in the garage of a friend, Susan Wozniak, in Menlo Park, California. Greg Silverstein, a fellow PhD student at Stanford, was hired as the first employee. Don't believe that. For example, on why blockchain can be increased centralization is, well, actually decrease it, and then the other one is increase. For example, blockchain tech can allow individuals to transfer value across the globe to other individuals without an intermediary. This is truly revolutionary, but at the same time, government, corporate monopolies such as government or corporate monopolies, or both the same thing, such as the CIA, Amazon, Google, Apple, IRS, which I view as just different aliases of the same entity, can universally restrict access to their products from specific entities or people on a specific blockchain or blockchains. For example, if Apple requires only people register to their quote AppCoin blockchain system, I'll put a quote here because they don't have it quite yet. Blockchain platform, as well as other possible physical identification such as DNA, fingerprint, retina implemented chip inside to access it, to use their iPhones. Then at any time as well, they can restrict your access to all other iPhones, Apple products forever. So if you're on the blockchain, they can just delete you, and you can't use that. So thus it is best to smarten up to the world around us and start developing our own technologies that make us truly self-sufficient, and at the same time stop buying into the over-consumerism propaganda being pushed at all stages of life. Hashtag you don't need the newest iPhone. It's hashtag it's all just mental slavery, in my opinion. So blockchain technology, whether it is in fact trickle down or in fact truly an innovation by Satoshi Nakamoto, is nonetheless a tool, and in my view, a special tool that if we use it probably can free us from some of the grips of the world government. Again, make sure to watch my earlier videos on that. Oh, and hashtag get on Steam, and follow me at mes@steemit.com. Anyways, that is all for if you learned from this quite extensive video. Hopefully you learned a bit. This is pretty much how I like learning, just put all the summary in and read it out and go through it all, make a video, and this is I find it the best way to learn stuff, and then rewatch it again at double speed. So anyways, that's all for if you followed along. Just scroll all the way back. Also, hopefully you didn't mind too much. I had some computer issues. My computer was just slowing down. It's just a bit jumpy right now. There's a lot of data in this file. Just scroll, keep going. So yeah, it's a bit jumpy. I'll see what's wrong with that. But anyways, hopefully you enjoyed there, and yeah, let me know your thoughts, and let me know anything I missed, or any of the definitions, the mainstream definitions were off, or if I made some mistakes in my explanations. And yeah, let me know what you think about this whole cryptocurrency blockchain technology going everywhere around the world, and what you think I should invest in, or what you are investing in, what your thoughts are on this cryptocurrency world. So yeah, some issues with my Word document. Anyways, keep scrolling up. Anyways, that is all for today, and yeah, all these notes will be in the link in the description below. You can download them, and also be on Steemit. I'll upload all these there in article format, so make sure to follow me at MES over there, and also make sure to check out my earlier 9/11 and free energy video series. It's pretty bombshell stuff there. It was all for today. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for another Math Easy.